I grab a bat, I don't know my wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show. So have you ever felt betrayed? Switches how you see things, realize something needs change. Cause I know you got me f***ed up, let me show you what's up. Cause enough is enough.
All right, welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack 2022 Fantasy Football Team Previews. Tonight, I'm joined by Dave Eddy to be recording about the Dallas Cowboys. And let's just jump right into things here with the quarterbacks, starting here with Mr. Dak Prescott. Cooper Rush is the backup. So, I mean, like Dak is a back-end QB1. Do we still trust him to be a QB1 since he lost, Amari Cooper?
Man, I tell you, I've always been split on Dak, and the one thing that I guess I'll say for him is, outside of him having to miss 12 games in 2020, he's at least played every game, and his stats are more than serviceable. I'm not going to target him personally as like a QB1. But if the draft board falls and I get quote unquote stuck with him, I think I could do worse.
Yeah, I mean, even since they lost Amari, and look, everybody who's ever watched the Fantasy Six Pack Hour knows I am not an Amari Cooper fan. I think the guy is super inconsistent, but he's a good pro receiver and he's good for the quarterback that plays with him. So losing him, I still think he's fine, right? Still got CeeDee Lamb, who I think is top notch. Michael Gallup is a little underrated in my opinion. Pollard and Zeke are still there to kind of hunker things down and can both catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think he's got plenty of weapons there. I'm with you. It's not a guy that I'm like, oh, I gotta go get Dak. But the draft falls to me in a certain way. Sure, I'll take him. He's fine. He's kind of a safe, late QB1, and that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get QB1 probably most weeks than not, and you're gonna be fine with it. So, that's pretty much all I got to say about it. So, let's just move on here to those running backs. Mr. Ezekiel Elliott sitting here at overall 39, running back 20. Tony Pollard 79 and 33. Ryan Nall and Rico Dowdle. Sure. We saw Zeke kind of take a step back last year, right? I mean, he had a good stretch of weeks there where he was, still, RB in the top 10, and then a couple injuries off and on, and he started struggling there. And Tony Pollard really, in a lot of those games, looked better. Is there any chance that you see Pollard outscoring Ezekiel Elliott this year?
Absolutely. Just as far as, their ADPs, I am basically taking Zeke right out of my player pool. I'm just not interested in him at all. And I would be willing to take a slight reach for Tony Pollard. I don't think it's at all even a hot take to say that Tony Pollard could be the highest scoring back out of this, on this team.
It's tough because Jerry Jones is like in their ear chirping, dude, we paid him. You got to give him the ball. And that's kind of what they did last year, right? Like, even though he wasn't the most efficient back, they just kept feeding him the ball. And you wonder if they're going to keep doing that, right? To their own detriment, it's in my opinion, because I do think there is something too that Zeke has a lot of mileage on him. He is only 26, but he has a lot of mileage on him. And Pollard's pretty fresh for the most part. We still saw, Zeke outsnapped him 62-34. It's just, or that's the postseason. Sorry, in the regular season, it was 66 to he's not 30%, so even more actually. But yeah, I do think there is something to Zeke's just getting up there in running back age and just wearing down. He did play every game last year, but he wasn't the same old Zeke, man. And he hasn't been for a couple of years. The offensive line isn't even as good. So like you almost need a more electric back, somebody who's got a little more pop than Zeke does. So I'm with you. I'm out on this, and I've said this in a lot of the shows. Like, even though you see like RB20, you're like, oh, that's a value. It's still overall 39. That's not a value. That's the super early 4th round. Like, I need something better. I need something better that I can trust more at that point in the draft. And, I said it on I believe it was the Chargers show with Mike LaPlante, that, the way that we're noticing these rankings and these ADPs falling right now, like, I'm going to go get 2 super early running backs that I trust a lot more, because the value at running back isn't really there. Like, if you're waiting to take your running backs and you want a Zeke as your RB1, good luck. And if you wait even longer and Tony Pollard is like your RB1, if you're like an RB0 type of guy, I don't like that either. Like that's really risky in my opinion. So I feel like this year I'm kind of back to like heavy running back early, just because of the way the rankings and the ADP is falling so far. The running backs are flying off the board, but that gets into the receivers, which are tending to be a pretty good value. And we've got CeeDee Lamb here at overall 20, wide receiver 7. Give me that all day. Michael Gallup, 149.54, who I just said was a little underrated. We got Jalen Tolbert, 245 and 86. James Washington should be somebody to kind of keep an eye on, in my opinion. So without Amari Cooper, though, like, how much do we see? What chance do you see Lamb being able to just leap immediately into this like elite wide receiver territory?
I think the fact that Michael Gallup is, I think, a lot better than what people give him credit for is a huge bonus for Lamb, because I don't think that you can just, game plan CeeDee Lamb out of things, because you've also got to worry about Dalton Shultz. I'm not sure what Jalen Tolbert's going to be, but James Washington has proved to be a serviceable receiver as well. So yeah. I don't know that CD. I don't know that his role changes a whole ton. I think that Gallup, can kind of do some of the things that, in that offense that Cooper was doing. So if anything, I think Lamb just gets more targets. So I think that it's a huge boost for him to get Cooper out of there.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go with it. I was looking at the target share last year, and Lamb did lead the team with 18.9%. Cooper has 16.2%. I mean, spread the ball around pretty good here. Schultz had 16.2% as well. Of course, Gallup missed a lot of time. Only saw 9.7% of the target share, but so you expect that to rise. But I don't think Gallup's going to, jump into like the Amari Cooper role. So I kind of think maybe we get Gallup into the 15%, 14% range, and maybe CeeDee Lamb jumps into that low 20s range. Maybe Schultz doesn't see as much, that type of deal. And so I do think the potential is there. But I'll tell you what, man, wide receiver 7, back end of the second round, I love Lamb. I love like snagging. If I had an early pick and I can get one of those top end running backs, come back around, get CeeDee Lamb, and then quick turn back around and get another running back, I would love that start of the draft. I think that would be a perfect way to do it. Again, I also really like Gallup later. I do think he's underrated. The injury last year really hurt his stock, but without like we've seen him do it. I wrote a big piece up last year where he had like the air yards, that he was like an underrated player last year because of the air yards going his way, and I just see those even going up again this year, post injury, obviously. So I think he's got the connection with Dak, so I think that's going to be great for him. But finishing up here with the tight ends, we got Dalton Schultz sitting here, overall 73, tight end 7. Jake Ferguson is there as well, and Jeremy Sprinkle. So again, we just talked about Schultz, seeing a fairly healthy target share there in Dallas. Do you trust him as, a guy who could fall into the tight end, the top 5 of the tight ends?
I don't know about top 5. That may be a little bit dependent on kind of, maybe injuries to some other players. So I would say he's safely just outside of that top 5, though. I wouldn't fight somebody terribly hard if they said he was their, 5th best tight end. But either way, he's a guy that I would be thrilled with as my tight end 1. I don't know why you wouldn't be. The targets that he's going to get should be pretty good. And again, same thing with Lamb. I think that losing Cooper is going to be a huge boost to both of them. And it very well may just simply come down to, can he, get 8 touchdowns, or in that neighborhood again, just like he did last year? Because as you and I have talked about on some of these, shows that we've done, when we've talked about lesser tight ends, we talk about how they're tight end dependent.
Touchdown dependent, yeah.
Sorry, touchdown dependent.
I know what you meant.
I don't know how to talk.
You're good.
But in his case, I don't think that he's going to be touchdown dependent by any means, but where he fits into the ranks is going to depend on how many touchdowns he scores.
He's also a fairly good red zone target. He caught 6 of his touchdowns in the red zone last year, so there you go. And look, I think, honestly, in my opinion, just to wrap this up really quick, he's kind of one of those last tight ends that you feel comfortable drafting that aren't touchdown dependent, right? You got the Kelsey, Andrews, Pitts, Kittle, Waller, Hawkinson, Schultz. After that, man, you get Goddard, who's kind of touchdown dependent. Maybe he falls into there. But then it's Dawson Knox, who we know is touchdown dependent. He caught 9 out of 54, catches last year. Ertz, Freiermuth, Gesicki, Henry, all these guys touchdown dependent at that point. Schultz feels like one of the last guys that can be a little more volume your way, to where if you don't get the touchdown, you're not getting a 1.5 from your tight end. So I do like him at that back end range, and probably somebody who I will be looking at that point in draft. So
absolutely.
All right, man. Well, that is it for the Dallas Cowboys. I want to thank you all for tuning in and watching. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, that like button. Leave those comments. We appreciate it. And check out the rest of our team previews. See ya.